The entire world agrees to allow you to choose one leader to unite all of the countries of the world. You can select anyone living or dead, but they must be a celebrity. Who did you choose to rule the United Earth? I think we have our answer here. An incorruptible president with a perfectly calibrated moral compass who actually cares about every single person, and a fearless, unshakable VP with a love of nature, both loving, family men who anyone could trust with their lives. Excellent choices. Edit. And how awesome would it be hearing a speech from both at once, their voices so different. Let's assume that a quarter of the world's population is 14 and under. And let's further assume that Tradisex for food is 19 or under and we're in Hawaii. Either way, doesn't really matter, we're still talking about 1.91 billion people, if each encounter took 10 minutes, and they do this for 16 hours per day, then they're only getting through 35,040 people per year. Tradisex for food will need to live nearly 165,000 years to get through the people who are of age before getting into the people who are underage, and this assumes that there's no change in population whatsoever, no births, no deaths, just everyone living until Tradisex for food has had their chance. If we want to be able to condense these numbers into a normal human lifespan, let's first assume they're going to live another 60 years, to get through all 5.75 billion legal partners in that time frame. They'll need to get jiggy with them at a rate of about 5,000 per second. That's both incredibly impressive and so very, very sad at the same time. Don't pick Gandhi. He was a major racist. Story by the Washington Post on this, and also did a lot of victim blaming for women who were raped. Article by The Guardian about this. And so please do not put Gandhi in charge of the world. My apologies if this comes off as rude, but I just want to highlight this because to me, I could be a bit wrong about this, presented Gandhi as some great, amazing person without faults to suggest a point. That's so funny, I picked her too and I didn't even see your post. I like how she's been very non-partisan. She's very wise trying to be neutral, and she said she definitely has her political opinions but she keeps them to herself. She doesn't want anyone to define her or like or not like from that. Wouldn't you want to know the political opinions of the person you pick to be a world leader? By definition the position is a political one and requires political action. I actually think that someone able to hold their views that close to the chest for that long despite the spotlight is someone who would be wise enough to not allow their views to rule them, but would listen to other counsel and possibly change their views if the situation called for it. Exactly, someone who loudly and boldly states their opinions is taking hard stances that they're unlikely to back down from. She is a lot more mindful of the current political climate and likely much more receptive to other views. Assuming OP wouldn't include fictional characters aside, this is probably the best choice I've seen so far. The majority of people seem to be picking celebrities solely on their moral character, albeit that's not irrelevant at all. Others are picking leaders from antiquity who'd find the modern world difficult to navigate. Picard has knowledge, personality, and skills suited for high-stakes, high-pressure leadership in an industrialized world. He's already thoroughly educated in history, culture, and literature from Earth, along with boasting the impressive STEM background necessary to be in Starfleet. He has years of experience leading a community of people through a variety of puzzling, foreign, and dangerous situations. Picard himself has a lot of experience with diplomacy, exploration, brushes with death, etc. Overall he'd be a great candidate. Seeing his name just makes me think of my name as Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix legions, loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next. You know what? I think Maximus, the character, although Russell Crowe isn't the worst choice for leader of the world, would be a great leader. He seems like he would actually do whatever he said he would do. It stands on the idea that humans do not have the capacity to be right about thinking a certain way is the best to rule. Therefore none ever will be right about how they rule. So if they want to rule, they are always making a mistake. This is of course an idea born out of either cynicism or some emo moment the dude had back in his day. Everyone sucks, life is shit, etc. Wishing to rule isn't a simple thing that can be taken as is. If anything, the first way wishing to rule is interpreted as wishing to have power, and they are not the same thing. Also, wishing to have power isn't an inherently wrong or evil thing. More like wishing for power for the sake of self-interest is the most often brought up scenario. It's compulsory. Mr. Rogers will be tortured until he agrees to be emperor. If the torturer refuses to torture Mr. Rogers, unfortunately that is also compulsory, and he will be tortured until he agrees to torture Mr. Rogers. However, Mr. Rogers feeling like he's responsible for someone being tortured in some way is the most effective torture method against Mr. Rogers, so the torturer will be tortured either way, and Mr. Rogers will be told that he is being tortured for refusing to torture him, which is the torture for Mr. Rogers. Yeah, he's a real Renaissance man. I saw him on a talk show explaining that he cut down on his spending by putting an angry Terry picture in the front of his wallet. I thought that was brilliant, so I found an angry picture of him to put in my wallet. It worked. I would see his angry face and rethink my rash spending choices, and then my wallet got stolen. I sometimes wonder what the thief thought when they opened my wallet and saw angry Terry staring at them. Does it really matter, since the entire world has already submitted to the idea of one leader? A united world implies a single trading bloc, a single monetary system, and a single government. Wars no longer exist. Many of the philosophical problems that plague world leaders would no longer matter. Maybe the only real problems would be logistics to solve world hunger and regulation to prevent climate crises, was thinking Gandhi. But given all that peace and love crap is irrelevant, the question is, what is the most important quality the world leader needs? Can have all the best advisors in the world to do the heavy lifting in respective fields. Not sure what really matters here. Someone in touch with what people younger than 60 think would be nice for a change. Haha picks up where Army of Darkness leaves off. Ash is caught between half-sarcastic prick and everyday hero we love, but find himself in charge of the society he's landed in. He not only has to learn how to cope with his weird division of self, but also how to help those around him. Record scratch. Luckily he has an ace up his sleeve. Arnold Schwarzenegger as a level-headed straight man who believes in social programs but responsible spending. Guess they'd have to face off against some Paleolithic bad guy, but so far this writes itself. George motherfucking Washington, he helped liberate a country and then chose the noblest path for a leader to take by rejecting permanent power. Seems like he had what it takes. Good militaristic mind, noble values, the good of all ahead of his own, etc. But that's based on what I know of him. Maybe he secretly was a douche. One of her strongest attributes I believe is that she's had a lot of media training, dating back to her university days. That's why she is so good at speaking with the media, and that's a big part of why NZ COVID response has been so successful, is that she from the get-go gave clear, concise, and consistent updates, unlike many other world leaders who essentially tried to gaslight their citizens. I don't think there's any celebrity I'd be comfortable being in politics, much less global politics. Most are untrustworthy for that much power, and those that are probably don't have the skill set to do it effectively. If I had to choose, maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he's a celebrity with a history in politics, but that's a big maybe. Antonio de Oliveira Salazar, the benevolent dictator of Portugal, kept Portugal and the Iberian Peninsula mostly out of WW2. Their neutrality and actions of many foreign consulates saved an estimated 1 million lives. Also held back Spain from joining Adolf. Wikipedia bio. King Philip II, that man became king and all he did was work. spent most of his life filling out paperwork, expanding his country, and didn't spend much time on entertainment. History enthusiasts feel free to correct me, not sure if it's a celebrity though. Genghis Khan is my choice. I desire a return to 11th century life, shorter lifespans, close mortal combat, rule by physical strength and cunning, hunting and hand-sown agriculture, mud, reed or thatch huts that could be constructed in a day or two, and concubines traded for in village marketplaces. No debt, no job. A warrior life where decisions would be made by tribal leaders and dissenters would be routinely executed. Jacinda Ardern, it's a woman, and we need more women. She has no vested interest for her country as New Zealand is quite small. She is highly emotionally intelligent, smart as hell, thoughtful, quite apolitical, knows how to handle arrogant male leaders with aplomb. Looking at you, Tangerine Benito, Scott Nomates Morrison, and Below Johnson. Augustus Caesar, he held supreme power for most of his life and ruled justly, worked with the Senate to accomplish goals, and strove tirelessly to improve Rome and spent vast amounts of his personal wealth to do so. It was said he found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble. Alexander the Great is the only one with any serious attempts at such a feat. Jesus would be a good choice. Washington definitely the best American choice, although he wouldn't want the job. Socrates/Plato would have some strengths. Bismarck, Chief Joseph, Alfred the Great are other names that come to mind. Identify celebrity. One time my husband, who owns no boats, agreed to a television interview about boating on a lake he has never been on in his life. He had only moved to the town a few weeks earlier. My Bill and Sil, who do own a boat, were getting their boat into the slip for the season and he came to help. They suddenly couldn't find him and spot him doing the TV interview. He faked the entire thing and they aired it that evening. I am declaring that celebrity status and appointing him, so I can be the boss. Morgan Freeman, he's played world leaders before. He's smart, and his voice projects authority, calmness, sincerity, and trustworthiness. With so many countries, regions to govern, the world government is going to have a lot of people running it, so the leader will need to be a powerful figurehead. I think he fits that role perfectly. I would like you to meet proper_teach, a random Redditor, who on a random Sunday afternoon would soon find himself in an eternity of horror as his random wish is granted. Screen cut to our Redditor, slavishing toiling in a monkey's paw factory in the back alleys of India. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. Rod Sterling's ghost fades out, stage left. Except that I've heard from many sources that it's simply not, and he is pretty much a shill for large corporations to develop more blue-collar labor. He is also very against certain protective labor laws and unionization of the labor force. This pained me to hear, but I saw a segment that you did on Fox and his message in a nutshell was shut up, do your job, and be grateful for it. Serious answer. And this is coming from a Democrat who worked in politics professionally for 11 years. Arnold Schwarzenegger, governed the 5th largest economy in the world, is a moderate, so isn't going to alienate the right or the left too much except the extremists. If you've seen his charity work, seems like a genuinely decent person. And, most importantly, he is exactly right on the most pressing issues facing the world right now. Climate change and the rise of the far right. Either Theodore Roosevelt, or Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, most people do not know the later. He was the first Chancellor of the Republic of Turkey, saved the nation from the Greeks, and advocated for democracy, separation of powers, and state secularism. In a very religious Islamic culture, he basically was Turkey's George Washington. President, Robin Williams, Bob Ross, or Einstein. Vice President, Dave Grohl, Mr. Rogers, Jack Black, Dolly Parton, or Betty White. I trust very few celebrities within 100 feet of any government, but I trust these people to spread love and joy around the world. whilst doing what's best for everyone, not just whoever gives them the most money. Actually, one person can never do it alone, because if we choose someone with higher IQ, they have low IQ and or lack common sense. But if I have to, I will choose someone among these three: Genghis Khan, Pablo Escobar, Leonardo da Vinci. I would want a ruling council. Just one person in charge isn't a good idea. Too open to corruption to matter how honest their intentions. And always good to have a range of people with different specialities to create a balance. 7 people: Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Florence Nightingale, Mother Teresa, Albert Einstein, Marie Curie, and someone from the modern world. Maybe Jacinda Ardern. Elon Musk. With him in charge, we will be living in the ideal future, and colonizing any near planets, getting our minerals from passing meteorites instead of tearing up the Earth, and he will keep us from being enslaved by artificial intelligence. I'll bet he can figure out how Tesla was delivering electricity without wires. That'll improve the views. That gray-haired black martial arts sensei who pops up once in a while helping kids in his class do cool shit while giving them life advice. He seems to understand hardship in life is inevitable, but being stoic and focused on the moment is how you quell your fears and mistakes. He seems level-headed and wise enough to delineate tasks to those he believes will do the best job for the most people. No one. The very idea of a one-world leader is absolutely terrifying, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Even someone whose economic, personal, ideological, etc. philosophies matches mine to a T, doesn't change the fact that different groups of people have different values. We see this in America. For example, you have groups that support socialist democratic leaders like Bernie Sanders, groups that support moderate Democratic leaders like Joe Biden, populist Republican leaders like Donald Trump, moderate Republican leaders like Mitch McConnell, John McCain, and many groups that support parties which will never see prominence because the Republicans and Democrats control completely what parties can debate on the national scene, such as Libertarians, Constitutional Party, Socialist Party, etc. Okay, in GL, this is a nice joke because we know this will never happen but to answer it anyways, I do a shit ton of research, but I would make a council of 9 people who vote on things that are brought up to be voted upon by the people, and between the 9 of them, have at least one of them be friendly to each demographic, so at least one is friendly to Christianity, at least one is friendly to LGBTQ+, to name 2 demographics with lots of friction, and have the government be set up so the council makes large-scale decisions. Then there would be 2 people to rule a select portion of an area, like provinces, and they would make a large world's council, with representation from every province, area, and they would help the main council vote on things, only certain things that the main council needs help with, by voting themselves, and the majority of what those representatives vote for. So, say 53% vote for a certain idea to be enacted, and that will count as 2 votes in the main council, so it will sway the vote, and that vote amongst the representatives will be coming directly from that province's people, and the representatives would be voted in, and will remain in their position until at least a certain percentage of people in their province vote for them to be removed from power, and have voting for a replacement occur. So if they are a good representative, they could theoretically stay in power for life. With this setup, everyone would be represented, both by the representatives from each province, and in the main council. But that's basics of how I would set it up. So if the world chooses me, then that means I'm now famous and a celebrity known by billions. You know what that means? I can choose myself to be the ruler of the world. I'll just simply keep things the same and get all the perks I can for being the ruler of the world. Simple. Ending wars is unrealistic to me, so I don't know how I can do that if the forces invading other countries aren't just going to listen to another government, because they usually have their own morals and reasonings. Honestly, I don't see the point in trying to change anything if someone is going to break the law.